Welcome back to the Against All Odds, the Less Than 1% Chance podcast with your host, Maria Ponte, where we will hear stories of incredible people thriving against all odds. And my hope is that we can all see how life is always happening for us, even when we are the less than 1% chance. Hey, welcome back to Against All Odds, the Less Than 1% Chance podcast with your host, Maria Aponte. Normally, I would sit here and introduce my guest. However, I've just had such an amazing off-camera conversation with him that I'm going to let him introduce himself. He is an amazing storyteller, and honestly, I can't wait for this conversation. So I'm going to just say, welcome, Token
Token
Squid.
Squid, sure.
Welcome to Against All Odds. Give me some of your background and let me know, what is your Against All Odds story?
Okay, Maria, thank you very much for having me, first of all, because it's a great privilege for me to be here to share with your audience the things that I've been through and the things that I do and the things that I continue to do. What I do is I am the executive director of a charity organization, and that should make a whole bunch of people want to just turn off. But what our charity organization does is we take care of, we honor and support the immediate family members of somebody who's killed in the military. So we're just getting off of Iraq and Afghanistan, and everybody knows that there was way too many body bags coming out of those two places. But our organization takes care of anybody who fits that qualification of a Gold Star family. And incidentally, Gold Star family is recognized as a mother or father, a brother or a sister, a son or a daughter, a husband or a wife, and in-laws and steps and halves. So if you're a brother-in-law or a sister-in-law of somebody who's killed in the military, you're a Gold Star. You're in that circle. So the way that I want to say this is that we do everything in person, which makes us different than every other charity you've ever run across. We do everything in person, and we do everything on a motorcycle. So we're going to pull up to your house or your favorite restaurant or your favorite park, and we're going to take care of all of our business loud, very, very loudly. Sometimes it's just me on my motorcycle. The most I've ever had was I went through Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. We had 116 motorcycles for that. We show up with 116 motorcycles, and we will make some noise. Now, a lot of people want to say, well, what happens when you go see the families? What happens? So we're going to kick off this with this cute little story that I like to tell. I've currently finished. I've now, in 7 years, I've done 69 rides around the country. I've logged over 155,000 miles. But this was early on. In the first year that I was doing these rides, I was at the end of July. It was a hot day, super hot. It was a hot month. So I had been on the motorcycle for about 25 or 30 days in a row, putting on a lot of miles, seeing a lot of families. And I get an email, check my email every night, and I get this email that says, you got to meet my best friend. She's a Gold Star mom. That's all it says. She's a Gold Star mom. I said, okay, set it up. Well, and back in those days, we didn't do any vetting. We found out the hard way that we need to make sure if somebody says they're a Gold Star family, we can't just take their word for it. We got to do it.
Yeah.
But back then we didn't. So I just said, I'll be in your town in 2 days. I had to ride across the country, right? So from wherever I was to wherever I was going. I had to ride across the country, and I said, set it up, I'll be there. We'll have lunch in 2 days. So we get there, we have our lunch, and we're in the middle of lunch. And there's a handful of people there, probably 15 or 20. And we're in a restaurant. They put a bunch of tables together. So we got this big thing going on there. And just out of nowhere, while we're all eating, this Gold Star mom, who was sitting immediately to my right, she stops eating, puts her forks on the table, and she just says, I just don't understand why my son would take his own life. And I said, he didn't take his own life. That was a sniper's bullet from 7,000 miles away. And she just burst into tears. Everybody at the table was crying. As a matter of fact, I think the waiter started crying when I said that. And I'd like to take credit for it. I wish I invented that phrase, but I did not. It came from somebody else. And after about 30 seconds or a full minute of everybody crying, somebody said, these tater tots are pretty good. Did you try them? And we went back to light, fluffy conversation. the occasional minimal joke or whatever it was. And after 2.5 hours, we parted company. We hugged our goodbyes out in the parking lot, and I got on my motorcycle and I took off down the road. And I rode a couple hundred miles that day, several hundred miles the next day, 1,000 miles the next day, and I'm down the road. I'm 2,500 miles away from her 7 days later. And I go check into this bad hotel, and we could talk for hours just about bad hotels.
Yes.
But so I get into this hotel, and I didn't have a internet signal, so I couldn't check my email. Well, I'll piggyback off my phone. Well, I didn't have a phone signal either. Well, I get a phone signal if I go out into the parking lot. So I put my phone on the motorcycle so it has a signal, and it broadcasts a Wi-Fi signal into the motel room. And this is one of those motels where all the doors open up into the parking lot.
Yeah.
And the parking lot was gravel. So
Yeah.
just to give you an idea. Anyway, so I finally get on my email, and an email comes up from the best friend, the one who said, "You got to meet my best friend. She's a Gold Star mom." I got an email from her, very simple, 2-sentence little email. And it said, "Your visit here was the greatest thing that could have ever happened." Because later that day, she went home and tore up her own suicide note.
Oh. Oh my God, I have full body goosebumps.
Aren't you glad I didn't tell you that story off camera?
I'm so glad, because I would have started crying even more.
So that one I've been telling that story for 5 years, and it's I even know what's coming. I know the punchline to that story, and it still pulls on my heartstrings pretty good.
Yeah.
But that's just one. I've met 553 of them.
Oh my gosh.
So you sure your program's only an hour long? We might have a couple more stories to tell.
I'm here for the stories. Absolutely. I just thank you, first of all, for your service, number one, and thank you for what you do, because I have my dad was a veteran, my brother's a veteran, my boyfriend's a veteran, different branches, all of them.
This patch.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get it where the light can hit just right. It says, "My DD 214 can kick your MBA's ass."
Yes, I agree.
So listen, this is an important thing for me to interject at this moment, because what I do is deal with a huge amount of loss. What I do on a regular daily basis, let's see, I've been doing it for 6 years, and I got 553 under my belt. So I'm averaging just about 100 a year.
Yeah.
This is basically me going to funerals. I've been to 100 funerals a year. And that doesn't count the funerals I get to go to, because I'm now at the social. My social status is such that funerals are social events.
Yes.
You young kids, you might want to go have a cocktail at a bar. Us, you go to a funeral.
Oh, goodness.
So
Funerals
there's a
are
great deal of
crazy.
sadness. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a huge amount of sadness, and I have to keep the sadness in check. Otherwise, I will be writing a suicide note. And so one of the things that we do for me to keep my sadness in check is I am a perpetual smartass.
Yes.
And I prove it with this patch right here. This patch, by the way, I created that phrase right there. And anybody who's a veterans love that patch.
Yes,
You know
I
what
can
DD
imagine.
214 is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, a lot of people don't.
I
Just
do.
yesterday, I was talking to somebody who was wearing the vest, and he said, "DD 214, is that an airplane?"
No.
Is that an airplane? Is that a gun? No.
So for
I
our
get those
listeners that
things.
don't know what a DD-214
I
is.
like to say, "I'd tell you, but then I have to kill you." Of course, that's just me being a smartass once again. Go ahead, tell everybody tell the good people what a DD 214 is.
So it's the discharge, right? From the military?
Correct. It's your
discharge orders?
discharge papers.
Yeah.
Discharge papers. It's the piece of paper that proves that you served in the military.
Yeah. When my dad was alive, I was basically his like administrator. So I had all of those things taken care of, and Dad, I need to get the DD-214. It was always something when we put him in hospice. We had the veteran liaison and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, they're asking for the DD-214 so you could get the military. Like, it was all.
Sure.
So, yes, I've dealt with the DD-214 often. And yeah.
DD-214 is a good, see, I can't just walk into Home Depot and say, give me the 10% veterans discount. Look, I got a patch.
Yeah.
I have to prove that I have the DD-214. It's not
Yes.
enough to just have the patch.
Yeah.
However, I can say, I will give credit where credit is due. President Obama did one thing really good.
Yeah.
He made it against the law. It's now a federal offense to pretend that you are a veteran if you were not a veteran. It's called the Stolen Valor Act of 2013. Obama signed it into law. It's a federal offense to tell people that you're a veteran if you are not.
That is
And
awesome. Actually, I didn't know that.
believe it or not, there's a ton of people who do that.
Yeah, to get discounts and
The
stuff.
hardcore vets. I knew a guy a while back who presented himself as somebody who spent time in the military. Worse than that, he's told people he was part of the Navy SEAL teams.
Oh,
He wore the
likes
hat.
to tell stories and everything.
He wore dog tags. He was, and I introduced him to a guy that I know who's a dear friend of mine who served in Vietnam. This guy that I know that served in Vietnam, he's got some incredible stories too, because his stories in Vietnam were, first of all, he was promoted in the field from Army grunt to Army ranger. To be promoted to a ranger in the field, well, because it requires a ton of schooling, right? So they skipped the schooling, they just promoted him and they made him an Army ranger. He had an interesting job in Vietnam. His job in Vietnam was to find the Vietnamese, the Viet Cong campsites and sneak in the middle of the night to the last tent, the one that was on the outermost. He would sneak into the tent and there would be two people sleeping in there and he would cut them open from stem to stern, we call it. Stem to stern. You just cut them open, and then sneak back out and leave. And just leave those two guys dead in a horrific way. And then all of the other Viet Cong would see him and it would spook them and they would run the other way.
Yeah.
So that was his purpose and mission. So imagine doing that for 6 months. Yeah. Anyhow, he's a good friend of mine, lives around the corner. We ride motorcycles together. Go figure. Go figure. After a couple of years or a couple months of, he likes to ride motorcycles. He likes to get his adrenaline rush. He also likes to ride snowmobiles. Yeah, he's a machine junkie. Anyway, I introduced this guy that I thought was my friend who said he was part of the Navy SEAL teams, recent Navy SEAL teams. Like he was SEAL team in 2005 to 2010, something like that.
Yeah.
I introduced him to this guy who was doing this work in Vietnam in 1972. A long time ago.
Yeah. Right? Just a bit.
Anyway, we visited. Hi, this is here. This is, and we visited for about maybe 10 minutes. We talked a little bit about motorcycles. He said something about what his favorite gun was. He said something about what his favorite knife was. And then we all parted company. And I went back to see the Vietnam veteran the next day. And the Vietnam veteran said, he's a phony. I said, what do you mean he's a phony? He said, he never served. He's not part of the special. No, he didn't do it. So the salty dogs can spot one immediately like that. I went back over their meeting in my mind 100 times.
And there was nothing special.
I couldn't pick out the spot that told the Vietnam vet that the other guy was a phony.
That's crazy. That's so crazy.
Yeah, I've since called out that guy, the phony. Mm-hmm. I did a little research on him, and I remember I said we vet people now. Yeah, we vet people to make sure that they are who they say they are. Anyway, I did a little research on him and come to find out that not only was he not part of the SEAL teams, he never stepped foot in boot camp, any boot camp, never, not one. Anyway, when I did the research on this stuff, they said, this is what he's going to say. He's going to say all his records are classified. That's why I couldn't find them. He's going to say this. He's going to say this. It had like 3 or 4 different things that the people who did the research for me told me he would say.
Yeah.
And I went to him and I read it off. Or I didn't read that part off. I just said, look, we found you out. You're done. Get all that shit off. Get the dog tags off. You don't get to wear them anymore. Everything that says that there's
You're
even the
part of it.
remotest relationship to the military, it's a federal offense. And this is your only warning. I said, this is your only warning. If I find out that tomorrow you're wearing your dog tags or a hat that says US Navy on it or a t-shirt that says Go Navy, I'm going to report you to every American Legion, to every VFW, to every AMVET, to every DAV, and I might even report you to a couple of motorcycle clubs. And I tell you, I know people.
I feel like,
Be
yeah,
careful. Be
that's
careful how I end that sentence. If I would have got word, he would have just disappeared.
Yeah.
Nobody would have found him. Because I'm rather forgiving. I'm a very forgiving person, but I know a lot of people who are not.
Who are not, yeah.
And I got a friend, dear friend, who served in the Marine Corps. He served over in Iraq in the early 2000s, I think 2005, 2006. He served in Iraq and he ended up serving, he was in the Marines, and he ended up serving under a commanding officer or whoever it was he was taking his orders from, turned out to be an asshole and sent him and his unit into a firefight that they weren't supposed to come out of.
Gosh. Ugh.
Listen, there's bad people everywhere.
Yeah.
Bad people
Agreed.
everywhere. I tell people this all the time. There's 5% of the people are crooks. Across the United States, 130 million people across the United States, 5% of them are criminals, just criminals. And guess what? There's 5% of the podcasters are criminals. 5% of the post office workers are criminals. 5% of the police force are criminals. Well, it's a lot more than 5% of the politicians.
There's a whole lot more.
So, all but one, and I haven't figured out which one. But you're just going to find that even in the military, we got 5% are bona fide assholes and criminals. But I know this guy who got sent into a firefight that he wasn't supposed to come out of, and he ended up, I think he had 8 men in his unit, so there was 9 of them that went into this. They ended up in this firefight, literal firefight, shooting bullets at each other for 10 hours. He had 27 confirmed kills.
Oh my gosh.
And and he saved all his guys. All of them, I think most of them got Purple Hearts, but he ended up getting them all out. And then he told me that if he could have, he would have put a bullet right between the eyes of the guy who sent them in there, but didn't get to do that. Anyway, I was talking with him about a year ago. We're just having lunch. And I said, look, you're a disabled vet. You're 100% disabled now. He said, yeah. He said, you got a Purple Heart. Yeah. You can do anything you want. You're a young man. I think he's only 35, between 35 and 40 years old now. So he's a young man. I said, you can do anything you want. Anything. What would you like to do? And he said, I'd kind of like to go back. I said, go back? He said, yeah, there's a few more I want to kill.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, so there's these, I get to meet so many bona fide heroes.
Yeah.
The really great salt of the earth people. I get to meet the unsalt of the earth too. I get to meet congressmen and I get to meet senators and I get to meet some big shots too. But I get to meet the real heroes of this earth. And I get to meet some guys that have no clue. They're heroes, but they don't have any clue that's what they're doing. For example, I was on a motorcycle ride. I was riding through Western Pennsylvania. I know you got at least one listener in Pennsylvania, so at least one of your listeners is going to get this. I was riding through Western Pennsylvania, and the mountains are wonderful. It was a beautiful day. The sun was shining. It was just perfect day for riding a motorcycle through the mountains. There's no straight roads. It's just all up and down and around and just getting into it, enjoying the hell out of it. The beautiful, majestic mountains of the Alleghenies in Western Pennsylvania. And I get to the edge of Pennsylvania and I'm got to cross the state line into New York. And I was right outside of Erie, Pennsylvania. Erie, Pennsylvania is in that northwest corner of Pennsylvania. Anyway, I pulled off right at the state line. There was a McDonald's. So I pulled off the road got to put my helmet on. See, I didn't have to wear a helmet in Pennsylvania. So this was my helmet in Pennsylvania. In New York, I have to wear a helmet because they think I will be safer. Incidentally, that's not true. We can go into that later. But so I stopped to put my helmet on, start up the motorcycle, let out the clutch. The motorcycle rolls 10 feet, literally 10 feet in a McDonald's parking lot, 10 feet and dies. Bleh. And I'm like, what the hell? And hitting the button, doing this, adjusting this, trying it in neutral. There's a computer on the motorcycle. And if you push that button and do that at the same time, it'll give you some numbers so you can look up whatever code the computer thinks is keeping the motorcycle from. Well, there's no codes. It's all clear. It just won't work. The motorcycle just won't go. I can't figure it out. And I don't know, and I'm cussing at it under my breath. Yeah. Anyway, I hear this voice from behind me who says, hey, mine does that sometimes too. Let's push it over in the shade, see if we can get her figured out. And he's a little older than me. This is 7 years ago. So he probably looked more like I look now. And I look younger. Anyway, he gets over there and he's on the left side of the motorcycle. I'm on the right side of the motorcycle. And it's a big motorcycle, big saddlebags, trunk, fairing, and all that stuff. And it's got stickers all over it that say Gold Star Ride Foundation. Looks a lot like that.
I love it. Okay.
And I'm wearing the vest, so the vest says that on the back too. Anyway, so he's pushing, and there's one on each side of the gas tank. There's 3 on the windshield, and there's some on the saddlebags. Anyway, the stickers are all over the place. And he says, while we're pushing at about a half a mile an hour, it's a 1,000-pound motorcycle. He says, what's this Gold Star ride all about? And I tell him what we do. We ride around the country, take care of Gold Star families, and I tell him all that stuff. And he says, oh, that's kind of interesting. We're still pushing. He says, what's a Gold Star family? And I said, it's immediate family members of somebody who's killed in the military. And he stopped pushing, and he stood upright, and he looked me dead in the face, and he said, my daughter was killed in Korea 3 years ago.
Oh, he didn't even know.
And I said, that makes you a Gold Star dad. And he said, nobody ever told me that. I've never heard that before. I never knew what a Gold Star was. This is all brand new to me. And I said, well, let's get it over there in the shade, and then we'll talk to you about you being a Gold Star dad. And he became one of those spontaneous Gold Star families that I met without a plan.
Yeah.
And there is a slight plan. Looking around for the plaque. I think I have a plaque over here. Every Gold Star family that we visit, we give him one of these plaques. And so we talked about his daughter. He told me about his family and this, that, and the other thing. And I said, you know what? Let me give you one of these plaques. And I pulled this out of out of the saddlebags. I always travel with a whole bunch of these. And I just put my business card up there because the actual plaque has our logo emblazoned on it. And I'll tell you what this thing says. This very simply says, can I do this without my old man glasses on? Probably. I'm going to go from mostly from memory because I've done this all more than once. So.
Maybe.
This is what the plaque reads. I feel how weak and fruitless must be any words of mine which should attempt to beguile you from the grief of a loss so overwhelming. But I cannot refrain from tendering to you the consolation that may be found in the thanks of the republic they died to save. I pray that our Heavenly Father may assuage the anguish of your bereavement and leave you only the cherished memory of the loved and lost and the solemn pride that must be yours to have laid so costly a sacrifice upon the altar of freedom. Yours very sincerely and respectfully, A. Lincoln. Yes, Abraham, if you saw the movie Saving Private Ryan, it started with 2 officers, one reading that letter to the other. Anyway, we leave them that little token as a memento of our visit, and then whatever the fallen hero would have done. So in his case, his house is paid for and this and that. And he didn't have any physical needs, but the need that he had was that his daughter would be remembered. And here we are 4 years later, I'm telling you about his daughter. So
her legacy keeps going.
We're keeping her memory alive. And that's the kind of thing that we do. We keep the memories alive. And here's another little thing, just in case there's a handful of your listeners who don't have any military experience, but they've seen a couple of movies, so they know what it's like. Two guys carrying guns, walking off that way, wearing camouflage clothing or whatever, and the two guys are talking, and they're talking about what they had for breakfast, and they're talking about whether or not bacon's good for you, and they're talking about stupid things, and they'll start to talk about the girl they met the night before, or they'll do this. At some point in all of those conversations, one will say to the other, if something happens to me, do this for my family.
Yeah.
Tell my wife I love her. Buy my dad a new car. Make sure my kids go to college. He'll say something selfish that we need that buddy to do for him because he's not around anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's all I do. That's all I do. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I have never met a Gold Star family that became a Gold Star because the person who died was somebody I actually knew. I'm a little thankful that they're all perfect strangers. Incidentally, they always have to make first contact. I will not knock on the door or ring the phone of any Gold Star family without an invitation.
Yeah.
That has to be, because that's just rude.
Yeah.
It's just rude. But if I did do it, I would do it at dinner time. Kidding. Because we used to always get telemarketers calling at dinner time.
I remember.
I'm just kidding. I don't do that. Just kidding. Listen, if all of my jokes were funny, I would be a stand-up comic.
I like it. You've got
not a stand-up comic.
So I guess, and I don't know if you wanted to go into this or not, but what makes you qualified to speak?
Didn't we start with that?
We did, but we were not recording.
You know what? I can give an abridged version. How about that? What qualifies me to do the job that I do, aside, you see all these books?
Yeah.
That's one of, what did we say I had 5?
Five bookshelves.
Oh, I have one over there too. 6.
So
I have all these bookshelves, and there's basically 3 subjects. All of these books can be
categorized,
shrunk down into 3 subjects. One is self-help, one is how to make movies, and one is the Civil War. And incorporated with the ones that's the Civil War, I also have 2 or 3 books on World War I and World War II. I also have 5 or 6 books on the American Revolution, on War of 1812, all of that stuff. Because believe it or not, on a side note, my personal family tree goes back to 1640 on this continent.
Oh, wow.
Not bad for a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy.
Yeah.
1640, yeah, Plymouth Rock. Well, it's the Plymouth Rock area. Have you heard of, I'm going to test your history knowledge.
Oh, gosh.
You heard of the shot heard round the world? The shot heard round the world was the shot that started the Revolutionary War.
Yeah. Okay.
Lexington in Kentucky.
Yep.
And basically it was not very many people against not very many people, and they had guns that shot one time. You only could shoot the musket once. Then you had to take 3 minutes to reload it.
Yeah.
It's similar to how a crossbow works today.
Yeah.
Side note. In that first Lexington and Kentucky battle, there were redcoats and there were rebels. The rebels were the colonists fighting against them. About 50 against 50, right? And they fired 50 shots and they fired 50 shots, and then they all went backwards, and 50 more came up because they were loaded and ready to go, and 50 more came up and they were loaded and ready to go. That second group of 50, one of my ancestors was in that group.
That's so crazy.
As soon as I get done telling you about what qualifies me to do this, I'll tell you a Civil War story that'll blow your mind.
Okay.
So I had the self-help stuff. I've been studying psychology, personal motivation, those kind of things since the mid 80s, however long ago that was. I know it was more than a minute.
That was, I could say, about 40 years, just because I'm going to be 43 in a few weeks. So, yeah.
Oh, what you mean to say is in a few weeks, you're going to be 29 for the 14th time.
Yes.
Well, you're doing well.
I actually very much enjoy getting older. Because
That'll change.
I enjoy the fact that I could say that I'll be 43 because when I was 18, I didn't think I was going to get there. So
Oh,
it
I
just
was the
feels,
same way because I
yeah,
read so many of these self-help books.
yeah,
When I was 43, I was like, yeah, 43 is a great age. It's great.
yeah.
Right? Now I'm significantly past 60 and I'm going, oh, shoot. I don't know if I have 40 more years left in me, but I'll give it my best shot. That's another story. Anyway, the other thing, aside from the self-help books, the other thing that qualifies me to be a decent candidate to meet with these Gold Star families is the loss that I personally suffered. And the loss that I personally suffered was I got married in 1999, and I knew going into it that she was an abusive person, and it was an extremely abusive relationship until 2010. Somewhere along the course of the way, we managed to get 2 kids out of the deal. And from 2007 to 2010, I was a stay-at-home dad. So for 3 years, I stayed home and took care of the kids. She was off working. But what ended up happening was that our marriage ended, and she persuaded the courts that I was abusive and she was not. And I lost my kids. Excuse me. Again, I'm giving you the completely abridged version because we talked about this off the camera, but I have this box of files and that box of files and that box of files, and I have all of these journals that document everything I went through when I lost my kids. But I lost my kids, and about 4 years after I lost my kids, 4.5 years after I lost my kids, I came to the conclusion that I was going to die if I didn't make the conscious decision that my children were already dead.
Yeah.
So in my mind, we had the funerals, we put them in the ground, we did everything because the courts screwed up. Oh, have the courts ever done that before? Oh, yeah, they do it all the time. Particularly in family court in the United States of America.
Yes.
The family court system is about as corrupt as anything imaginable. The worst corruption in the worst country in the world is probably on par with family court system in the United States. There are some pockets of places where it's not as bad.
My family court judge that dealt with my divorce, probably 6 months after, she was disbarred and removed because of corruption. So
Oh,
yeah.
well, see, that's corruption taken to an obscene level. Usually the corruption gets them reelected.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, it's not something that I recommend that you take a week to meditate on the idea that you just buried your kids.
Yeah.
The level of anguish that you get when you do something like that is about the same level of anguish that you get if you really do it.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same, but it's moving in that general direction. And what happened with me and my kids were taken away for intensely blatant lies and inveracities. That just kind of added more salt to the wound.
Yeah.
That made it even more difficult to how this is a rational person. They're a judge. They're wearing a robe. How could they possibly make a decision based on blatant and demonstrable lies?
Yeah.
It's one thing if she lies and I lie, and then it's he said, she said. That's all wonderful. But I demonstrated that she lied over and over and over again. I demonstrated that she committed perjury 12 times.
But she was removed from the household.
Oh, that was before. That was actually before we got to court.
Yeah.
We had a domestic.
So there was some type of evidence.
There was a domestic incident. Well, specifically what happened was we were still living in the same house. Me and the ex-wife were still living in the same house. We had 2 kids. They went to 2 different schools. She was working as a flight attendant. The girl was younger. I think the girl was 3 years old, and she had to go to special needs school. The boy was older. He's like a certified genius. Anyway, we had him in public school for that year. Anyway, she was getting ready to go. She's a flight attendant, so she was getting ready to go get on an airplane. So I said, okay, you stay here with the girl. You finish getting ready to go to work. I'll take the boy to school. And I did that. And when I got home, my journal was missing. I kept it in my laptop bag. And I came home. And what inspired me to do this, I don't know, because it was early in the morning. I never write in the journals in the morning. I only do it at night.
Yeah.
But I walked in the door. I walked right over to my laptop bag and I opened it up and my journal was gone. And I said to her, "You're not going to work. I'm not taking you to work until that journal is returned." As a matter of fact, I came home and she was taking a shower. I called the police and said, "Get over here right now because there's going to be a fight." And the police were there when she came out of the bathroom.
Oh.
So that wasn't very pleasant. But the bottom line is, she took it. I knew she took it and I wanted it back.
Yeah.
It was mine. It had my thoughts in it. And if there wasn't anything she was doing that was wrong or damaging or whatever, she wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
But that wasn't what she was after. She'd been planning this for months. She'd been planning to take the kids for months. She had her attorney drafted. As a matter of fact, she took the kids out of school the next day. But the police came that day, and while the police did not return my journal, they did remove her from the property. They left me there with my daughter, which was unheard of for the dad to stay with the kids. So they put her in a taxi and sent her away. And then the next day, she took the kids at kidnap. I call it kidnap because that's what she did. She took the kids out of school and went into hiding. And 2 hours after I found out that she took the kids out of school, I was served with divorce papers. So, yeah, she had been planning this for a long time. She'd been planning on taking the kids. She'd been planning on going into hiding. She'd been planning on using the system against me. And that's exactly what she did. That's exactly what she did. If you want to know more about what's in the journals can you go to can I plug my own podcast?
Yes, absolutely.
It's called I Am Damaged. That's the name of the podcast, the I Am Damaged podcast. So if you search YouTube, I Am Damaged podcast, it'll come up. And
I'll also link it in the show notes as well. So
yeah, so that's not really why I'm here to talk. I'm here to talk about the
okay.
Gold Star Ride Foundation.
It's okay.
But anyway, that's the thing that qualifies me. That's the thing that makes me feel like it's okay for me to go talk to these families that have lost somebody in the military.
Yeah.
That's the answer. Was that really the abridged version? Was it?
Somewhat, yeah.
I left a lot of stuff out.
You did.
I did leave a lot of stuff out. So yeah, we like to take care of those families. One of the other things that motivates me, there's so many things that have happened in my life that should have just, okay, you've done enough, stop now. You can't go any farther. Well, I got to keep going because that's what everything is about, life, right?
Yeah.
I often say, and I've been saying this for 30 years, an airplane has to take off against the wind or it won't fly.
Yeah.
An airplane the wind has to be going this way. The airplane goes this way. In order to take off, it has to go against the wind. That's a marvelous metaphor.
Yeah.
Marvelous metaphor. But when I do stuff for the Gold Star families, I talked about the Gold Star mom who tore up her own suicide note. I can't tell you how many times that has actually happened. 22 a day is the official number from the CDC of how many veterans take their own life. Do you know how many 22 a day is? That means in 5 more minutes, 1 will have happened while we talked.
Yeah.
In 10 more minutes, 2 will have happened in the whole thing because we talked before we started recording, right?
Yeah.
That's 2 in this conversation.
Yeah.
Which is too many. So we don't know our organization, because we don't take any government funding. The only place we get money is when your listeners say, that looks like a pretty cool thing. I better send them $1.
Yeah.
I better send them $1. By the way, we will take $1 million if you have it.
That works too.
I'm just saying. $1 is great. $1 is great. Oh, by the way, this patch, my DD214 can kick your MBA's ass. That's one of the ways we make money. You go to the website, goldstarride.org. Can't believe it's been this far into the podcast before I said the website. You can buy that for $10. And then you buy 10 of them, you got 10 veterans who are extremely happy with the gift that you gave them for Christmas.
Yeah, I love
$10 a piece. Anyway, where was 22 a day.
Yeah.
Because our organization is set up the way it is set up. It's a civilian population now, but all 3 of our board members are veterans. 22 a day is far more than we would like to tolerate. 22 a day is also that soft number that the government hands out. Because did the government say it? Is it true?
It's gotta be true. What?
No. Anyway, the 22 a day is far too many. I think in my experience that the number is probably closer to 50 or 60 a day.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a very specific story about why that is. I was in Massachusetts. And I promise the next story will be about the west side of the United States.
Okay.
So I was riding through Massachusetts and I went to see a Gold Star family in Massachusetts. And they said to me that they became Gold Stars. The man was a veteran, the woman was a civilian, they were married, and everything seemed to be as normal as it can be when he came home from the war. And he had some combat experience, which meant that he had to dodge bullets that were being fired at him, trying to kill him. And incidentally, that's an extremely wrong thing for a human to go through.
Yeah.
Humans are designed to go through, mentally speaking, they're designed to do certain things. And having somebody try to kill you that you do not know is not one of them.
Yeah.
War is, the actual act of war is so absurd for the human mind that if you go to battle, if you go to combat, if you're in combat and you come home and there's nothing wrong with you, there was something wrong with you before you went.
Yeah.
And that's why I also say post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
I never say post-traumatic stress disorder. There's nothing disorderly about it. It's post-traumatic stress. That's just, and everybody has different coping mechanisms, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's nice that I get an opportunity to clear that up. But anyway, this family in Massachusetts, a husband and wife just driving down the road, and the wife was doing the drive-up, and they were on a freeway, and everything was fine. They were talking about the weather or whether or not that song on the radio was their favorite song. And then out of nowhere, click, pop, he jumped out the door at 75 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh.
That one was not recorded as a suicide. That was recorded as a odd accident. And it doesn't even get close to thinking about things like accidental drug overdoses, because the VA hospitals are just as bad as the regular hospitals. They want to pump everybody filled with drugs.
Yeah.
The civilian hospitals, of course, that's how they make all their money.
Yes.
We like to think they make it from the insurance payments, but no.
Yeah.
They make it from the big pharma. So our organization, if you look really close, if I can get that just right in front of the camera, in between the gold and the star, in between Gold Star on the logo, there's a gold star.
Yeah.
And the star's got some shades on the points, but the top point, the one that points straight up, has some odd shade of green in it. It's only half of the point.
Yeah.
That color doesn't match any of the rest of the logo. So why do we put that goofy color in there? That goofy color is actually teal.
Yeah.
And teal is the National Post-Traumatic Stress Awareness color. We put that in our logo because out of the 553 families, the Gold Star families that we have met with, about 125 have been part of the 22 a day. And I met a Gold Star widow, and he died in a motorcycle crash in California. She was living in Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah. But there's more of the side story to that one too. But anyway, he died in a motorcycle crash. Was that a suicide? Nobody knows. Could be. Yeah, very well could be. Her son was, I think he was probably 6 years old when I met the family. She was, I don't know, 35-ish. And her husband had been in the Navy for 15 years, and he died in a motorcycle crash. He died in a motorcycle crash on his way to the Navy base. in San Diego. So was that suicide?
Yeah.
Wasn't recorded as one.
No.
You remember when COVID hit and everybody, all of a sudden, every single person who died of COVID?
Yes.
Because the government said, hey, anybody who
that
dies of COVID, we'll throw some money your way. Yeah. He died. Look, he was 96 years old. He fell and he broke his hip and he died in the hospital. Must have been
of
COVID.
COVID.
Must have been COVID. Anyway, we talk about so many things. We want to take care of these families. We want to make sure that we remember fallen heroes because they don't ever get to come back.
Yeah.
They don't ever get to come back. It's not like your boyfriend or girlfriend and you break up and you might get back together again. No, they're gone. They don't ever get to come back. And they did that so that you and I could be free to have this podcast.
Yeah.
They did that. Now, you might disagree with the politics of the war. Okay. There, for example, in the early 2000s, the United States invaded Iraq under the pretense that there was weapons of mass destruction there. Incidentally, Saddam Hussein was the dictator in Iraq at the time.
Yep.
Saddam Hussein himself was a weapon of mass destruction because he was killing tens of thousands of his own citizens regularly. And he was testing gases on them and poison gases. So the idea that we got in there and we took Saddam Hussein out, I don't care if you believe in the WMDs or not. We did a good thing there. It had to be done. Anyway, I wanted to go a little bit sideways here and talk about the memories of the ones who are lost. And we might disagree with the WMDs in Iraq, but the boots on the ground are only following orders. If you disagree with the politics of the war, vote the guy out of office. That's why we do it. That's why he only gets 4 years. We can vote him out of office.
Yep.
So we vote him out of office, but the boots on the ground, okay, these are people who said, I don't know you, but I love you so much, I'm going to put my life in harm's way so that you can protect your way of life.
Yeah.
Okay. He probably has his questions about the politics of the war too.
Yeah.
So we can't protest him.
What they're doing.
Or we can't deny the people who are doing the work for doing the work.
Yeah.
We made this mistake in Vietnam. In Vietnam, we did not have the support of the citizenry, right? And we lost the war. You know what else is true about Vietnam? We killed 10 of them for every one of ours that was killed.
Yeah.
We have 58,000 on a wall, in memorial wall, remembering those who gave up their lives in Vietnam. They don't have one, but if they did have one in Vietnam, it would have 6 million names on it. We killed 100 of theirs for every one of ours. Right? We won every single battle. Every time weapons were fired at each other, the United States was victorious in every single battle in Vietnam. But we lost the war. We didn't lose the war in Vietnam. We lost the war in the United States because we didn't have the support of the citizenry. Now, my experience was Desert Storm, 1991, right? They called it Desert Shield for the buildup when they were getting everybody together. That was principally in 1990, at the last quarter of 1990. And then in January of 1991, we started bombing them and bombing the piss out of them and all that other stuff. And we demonstrated that with the support of the citizens of the United States, we can mop it up quick. Because Desert Storm didn't last very long.
Yeah.
Desert Storm didn't last very long. And it would have lasted a little bit longer. And Saddam Hussein would have been removed then if George Bush Sr. would not have said, read my lips, no new taxes. Because when he said that, and then he raised taxes, all the people said, well, screw you. We're not going to let you be president anymore.
Yeah.
And because they voted him out and they voted Bill Clinton in, Bill Clinton is a marvelous politician in his own right. So let's not take anything away from Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton wins the election. George Bush says, there's no need for us to be at war anymore. So he pulls out and we're not at war anymore. But Saddam Hussein is still in power.
Yeah.
Incidentally, there's another story that goes along with that, which is that President Bush Sr. was actually preparing to take Saddam Hussein out. He had 3 teams of Army Rangers training around Salt Lake in 1991, 1992 that were training to take Saddam Hussein out. And that's what they do. And if you saw anything about what happened with bin Laden, now granted, a lot of stuff that happened with bin Laden, they didn't tell you about because it's classified.
Yeah.
However, they knew where he was for a long time. They
Yeah.
knew which house he was sleeping in for a long time. They built models of it in the United States. They built models of it and they trained and they did it and they did it and they did it. And that's the way the special forces works. They figured this out. Okay, we see everything, we know everything.
We have
Let's
the
build one over
intelligence. Now let's.
where nobody's going to shoot back at us, and
Yeah.
we're going to do it until we can do it in our sleep.
Yeah.
And then they go do it. And that's what they did with bin Laden. So that's what they were doing for Saddam Hussein in 1992 at the end of, or near the end of
Desert Storm.
the Desert Storm, right? And what happened is there's a guy in Amory, Wisconsin. He's Gold Star dad, and he told me this story. His son was one of the Army Rangers that were on those 3 Ranger teams that were training to take out Saddam Hussein in Salt Lake. They were doing their training around the Salt Lake. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but if you go west of Salt Lake, it's a big desert.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big desert. They got signs along the freeway that say, stay awake.
Yeah.
It's a big desert. It's big, boring desert. It's interesting. Anyway, this young Army Ranger actually called his father and said, we're not ready, but we have to do a test run because Colin Powell is going to come and observe tomorrow. But we're not ready. Our communications are down. We can't talk to each other. The radios and the helicopters don't work. Remember, this is 1991. There are no computers. There's no artificial intelligence. There's none of that. The technology that exists today wasn't even thought of in 1991 and 1992. Anyway, what ended up happening is 3 helicopters crashed and 27 Army Rangers died, including the son of the guy from Wisconsin who told me this story. And that's what made him a Gold Star dad. Man, he was really something else. Very, very powerful personality. But because Colin Powell watched 27 Army Rangers get killed, news got back to George Bush Sr., and then shortly thereafter, he lost the election. And he said, well, why should I train Army Ranger? I'm a lame duck. I'm not going to, I can't spend 6 months training Army Rangers when I'm only going to be in office for 4 more months. That's not good. So that's why we stopped going after Saddam Hussein. An interesting side note, that's probably why George Bush Jr. started the war in Iraq.
Yeah.
Now, again, what we want to do is we want to remember those people who, specifically, we want to remember those people who put on the uniform, who got the stupid, ugly haircut, who were willing to sleep on holes in the ground that they dug with a shovel that they carried on their backpack, that are willing to go in harm's way where there are people who want you dead.
Yeah.
And they're willing to go kill them and put themselves on the line so you don't have to.
Yeah.
And the numbers are ridiculous. Do you know, I used to wear a patch, I don't anymore, wore out, that said 7% of the entire population alive today, 7% of 130 million people in the United States of America. That's how many people have ever put on a uniform. That number was rounded up. At the time that I was wearing a patch, it said 7%. It was actually 6.53. That number's probably down now to probably 6.
Yeah.
Do you know how many out of the 130 million people, do you know how many people are serving in the military right now today?
No.
0.4%.
Oh my God.
That's like nothing.
That's nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You know how many are serving in the Chinese army? About 10%. It's just amazing what they're able to do. But the technology is so far advanced. There has never been a fighting force on planet Earth that could do what the United States military can do.
Yeah.
They take it really seriously. They take your life really seriously.
My boyfriend was in Iraq, and he said he literally, I think the first time he met my parents, we were at their house and he was on their couch and fell asleep. There's life happening, everybody talking, and we're Hispanic, so we're loud. And
fast. You guys talk fast.
Yes, also. And he fell asleep, and I look at him, I'm like, how can can you fall asleep? I fall asleep with
Yeah.
bombs going off and things happening around me. I could fall
Yeah.
asleep anywhere. And he could literally fall asleep anywhere at any time. I often take pictures. I'm like, look at you. How cute are you falling asleep? But it's because,
Incidentally, John Kennedy had the same skill.
yeah.
Incidentally, John Kennedy he was in the Navy in World War II. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I
It's
didn't.
relatively common knowledge. Actually, one of the things that catapulted him through the ranks of politics as fast as it did to the presidency. And he was very young when he was he was the
Yeah.
youngest president when he was elected.
Yeah.
And the thing that put him in that position at the time that it put him in that position was during World War II, he was on there was a PT boat, had a crew of about 20 men. It was a relatively small boat.
Mhm.
And Japanese actually hit it, not knowing they didn't see it. Their big battleship, Japanese
Yeah.
battleship, didn't see his PT boat, and they actually hit it broadside and cut it right in half. And so they don't have a boat anymore. And Jack Kennedy actually, he became a war hero because there was a couple people that were injured, and he literally swam backwards doing a backstroke with his teeth holding on to the life jacket of the guy he was saving who was incapacitated, couldn't swim, actually drug him 2 miles to the island.
Oh
And
my gosh.
and I think he went back and got a second one, and he did the exact same thing while he himself had a broken back from the accident,
Oh
from
my
that boat
gosh.
hitting them. And through the 50s, while he was campaigning for the Senate, he was mostly in the Senate in the 50s. He ran for vice president in 1956, but the Democrats lost to Eisenhower. But all through the 50s, every place he went, he was on crutches.
Really?
He was on crutches because he had a broken back. But he had that same thing in common that your boyfriend has. You can fall asleep anywhere,
Yeah.
anytime. Oh, I got 20 minutes? Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And it's the craziest thing. He said something the other night, and I was like, dude, you literally put your head on the pillow and knocked out immediately. And I'm
Well,
like,
I don't have that skill
I'm like, how does that
because
happen?
the truth of the matter is I have too much PTS to be
Yeah.
able to fall asleep like that fast. However, I do get to sleep. I have figured out my own little things, but I wanted to have a little capstone story here for you
Yeah.
from west of the Mississippi River,
Okay.
because I have been everywhere. Can't believe I don't have that map. It's a map of the United States, and it was all the highways that I've driven on.
Yeah.
You can see it on the website. If you go to goldstarride.org and look at the pictures, one of them is a map that's got squiggly lines all
All
over.
the places.
Those are all the places I've ridden my motorcycle in the last 7 years. If you throw a dart anywhere at that map, and the dart hit, wherever the dart hits, I have been within 100 miles.
That's
Wherever it hits. Even if it's halfway between Reno and Vegas, where there's nothing but desert, I've been within 100 miles. I might have even been in that spot because
yeah.
I went north and south through Nevada. Anyway, I wanted to tell this little capstone story because I know we're running out of time. And I know that your listeners are going, wow, this is a lot of fun, but I got to get to work. Or maybe they're listening to us through earbuds
through headphones.
at work.
At work. That's how I
And they go,
listen to
"Oh,
everything.
I want to tell you, first of all, the first story is the one from New Mexico. I was driving across New Mexico, and this was one of those deals where I wanted to make the news. I wanted to get on the news in San Diego. I was not successful at it, but what I was trying to do was ride from Jacksonville Beach, Florida, to San Diego, the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean.
Okay.
In 2 days, 48 hours.
Oh my gosh.
It can be done. I got these iron butt patches back here someplace.
Yeah.
Anyway, because I do these distance rides, we'll call them distance rides. Anyway, what happened to me was I got to West Texas and I ran into a haboob. What's a haboob? How would somebody in Florida know what a haboob is? Of course you wouldn't know it. I'm from Minnesota. I don't know what a haboob is. But I've been to West Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona, and I've learned what a haboob is.
So what is a haboob?
A haboob is a sandstorm when it kicks up the sand from the desert so much. You've probably seen them in movies, but when they're preaching in movies, it's like Saudi Arabia and Iraq and stuff like that. But it picks up the sand so much that it literally blocks out the sun and reduces visibility on the highway to like 5 feet because you
Oh
can't
my
see
gosh.
through the sand. And that's what I ran into. And I was on a motorcycle.
Oh my gosh.
I'm on a
That's
motorcycle in West Texas,
crazy.
which means I'm not wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
But I always have glasses on.
Yeah.
I said, look, I know when I've hit my
When,
limit. This is
yeah.
Anyway, I made it out to San Diego because I had Gold Star families to see. I saw Gold Stars in El Paso, Texas. I saw Gold Stars in Yuma, Arizona. I saw Gold Stars in some other places. And I made it all the way out to San Diego, saw Gold Stars out there. And I'm on my way back to Florida because this was I think it was the last week of February, first week in March. And where I'm from, up in Minnesota, that's still winter.
Yes.
So I'm not going to ride my motorcycle up to Minnesota. If I don't have to, I'm not going to. I have ridden my motorcycle in the snow twice, and I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
It's not. Motorcycles only have two wheels.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm eastbound now. I'm headed back toward Florida
Mhm.
from San Diego, and I'm crossing New Mexico, not on the freeway. The freeway crosses New Mexico is either I-40 in the north or I-10 in the south. I was in between on US Highway 60. And
Okay.
US Highway 60 is two lanes, one going each direction. And where I was at in New Mexico, there was nothing. There was nothing. And this is the kind of nothing where you just hear somebody say the earth is overpopulated and you burst into laughter
Yeah.
because there's nothing. I passed a town 25 miles in my rearview mirror and a motorcycle died. Blah, blah. And the next town in front of me, because I read the signs, right? The next town in front of me is 50 miles away.
Oh my God.
75 miles between towns. And the one behind me had a population of 130.
Oh my gosh.
And the one in front of me had a population of 1,500.
Oh my goodness. I
So
think there's
don't,
that many people in my neighborhood.
mine too. Anyway, so the motorcycle stops. It threw a code. Remember, we talked a little bit about
Yes.
codes before. So I pushing the buttons, find the code. Oh, look, there's a code. Now I can get out my phone. I don't know where I put my phone. Anyway, I can get out my phone and I can look up the code. I can Google the code and it'll tell me what's wrong with the motorcycle. Except I got no signal
You're in the middle of nowhere
in the middle of nowhere. And then I did one of these things where I spin around in a circle
to see if
to look at where am I? And there was nothing man-made as far as my eyes could see, 360 degrees, except the road I was standing on. There was not a barn. There was not a fence. There was not a telephone pole. There was not a cellular pole. There was not a house. There was not a ranch. There was not even a trough for the cows to eat on. There was nothing but the road I was standing on. And I said, well, I'm dead in the water. What am I going to do here? Well, the computer would let the motorcycle run, but only up to 15 miles an hour. The principal factor here is that the computer, which is supposed to be smarter than me,
yeah.
won't let me ride the motorcycle fast to do more damage.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll let me, they call it limp mode, so you can limp home to fix your motorcycle. So I thought, well, that town behind me had 130 people in it. There's no help there. There wasn't even a gas station in that town.
How?
I don't even know.
How does that happen?
I don't even know. So I know the next town is 50 miles in front of me. So I said, well, that's where I have to go. 15 miles an hour. It took 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie Dumb and Dumber?
Yes.
The scene where they got on that little teeny tiny mini bike and they're trying to ride to Denver, and then one guy pees his pants, and it's funny as hell.
Yes.
That's what I felt like. I'm on this great big huge motorcycle. Anyway, now the computer on the motorcycle monitors the engine, only the engine. So it monitors the gasoline intake and compression and a handful of other things that are in the engine. It does not monitor the transmission. It does not monitor the wheels in any way.
Yeah.
It monitors the brakes, but not at the wheels. It monitors the brakes at the brake level and the foot pedal. Okay. So it monitors that a little bit. Anyway, it does not monitor the wheels at all. So here I am, 15 miles an hour, and I pull into town, and I get 2 blocks into town. There's a convenience store gas station. I pull in there, And I get out my phone. Oh, great. Now I got a signal. Call up this guy. His name is Alex. I love Alex. Alex lives in Fort Sumner, Arizona. Why does that sound famous to you? That's what you're asking. I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Because that's where Billy the Kid is buried.
Oh, okay.
Little side note, this is not a story about Billy the Kid. This is a story about motorcycles doing stupid things. I call up Alex. He says, I'm the only tow truck driver you'll find for 100 miles. So I'll take you wherever you need to go. But you're not going to get that motorcycle fixed anywhere near here. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, great. What are my choices? He says, we can go 100 miles south to Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
I had to
Oh,
think for a minute. Where's that place where the aliens
with
land?
the aliens?
So we can go 100 miles south to Roswell, or we can go 175 miles east to Lubbock, Texas. And I said, I have to see a Gold Star family in Lubbock, Texas. We're going to go to Texas. He says, all right, I'll be there in 5 minutes. He pulls up with a little truck to grab the motorcycle and tow it. And he gets there and I said, listen, before we do, right at the edge of town, I got to tell you the story. Right at the edge of town, 2 blocks away, I felt the back tire jump. I'm only going 15 miles an hour. I didn't see a rock. I didn't see a pothole. The front tire didn't move, but I felt the back tire jump. And he says, oh, okay. And he lays down on the ground right there in front of me, just lays down on the ground and reaches up underneath the saddlebags that go over the back wheel. And he comes over to me and grabs my hand. And he puts these little teeny tiny black things in my hand. Little teeny, little bitty, itty bitty. I said, what the hell is that? He said, that's what's left of your wheel bearings.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, wheel bearings. Remember, I said the computer does not monitor.
Yeah.
So if I don't throw a code, I'm doing 85 miles an hour on that road. When the wheel falls off, which is the way it would have gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, wheel would have fallen off. When the wheel fell off, when I went rolling and skidding down the highway, when they found me, because I rode 3.5 hours at 15 miles an hour, I didn't pass any other cars.
Yeah.
The road was dead. It was perfect road for riding a motorcycle. Man, it was great. But they would have picked me up with a spatula because there's no helmet law in New Mexico either. So
Wow.
So I avoided being scraped up off the highway with a spatula because I threw a code because the computer said, you can't drive any faster than 15 miles an hour.
Goodness.
We load up the motorcycle and we go to Lubbock, Texas. We get there, it's 10 o'clock at night, and 3 hours, 175 miles. We were together in that truck for a while. You get to know somebody when you spend that much quality time with them.
Yeah.
Anyway, he found out all about the Gold Star Ride Foundation. He heard all these stories that I'm telling you, and all this, that, and I learned about him too. Him and his marriage and his 3 kids. He's been married for 15 years, and they have a wonderful family and all of this stuff. And I love Alex. Alex is a great human being. We get there, and he said, "I'm going to donate the tow." Excuse me. I said, "Oh, just beside myself. Really? I can't give you anything?" He said, "No, nothing. Forget it." Dropped the motorcycle off at the Harley-Davidson dealership where it's going to get fixed tomorrow morning. And then he took me to the hotel that was a block away, and I got out, and that was that. And then I did the math on it. That was a $3,000 tow.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so if you're having second guesses like, well, I don't know if I should donate to this. Well, Alex donated a $3,000 tow. Oh, and there's a book. We got to get to that book too.
Yeah.
Anyway, next morning, the dealership calls me up and says, "What are we doing with this motorcycle that you left here?" So I had left a note on the windshield that said, "Call me." And I said, "Fix the wheel bearings. The back wheel bearings are gone. And as long as you're doing wheel bearings, you better do the front ones too. And then as long as you got it, figure out what the code is and fix that. Just figure it out and fix it." He said, "You got something to do?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go hang out with this Gold Star family." So I spent 4 hours with the Gold Star family. It was a wonderful visit. I wish this was a story about them, but it's not. It's a story about the motorcycle. 4.5 hours later, 4 hours later, the family gives me a ride back to the dealership, and my motorcycle is out in the parking lot. And I'm thinking, I guess they decided not to work on it today. So I go up to the service tech manager, or whatever you call that guy. He said, "My motorcycle's still outside." He said, "Yeah, it's done." I said, "It's done." He said, "Yeah, it's done." I said, "Awesome. What'd you do?" He said, "We put in rear wheel bearings. Man, I've never seen them that bad before. You're lucky that wheel didn't fall off." And I said, yeah. And he said, and we put in front ones. And yeah, they were shot too. It's time for new front wheel bearings. I said, great. And what about the code? He said, what code? I said, the code that made me go 15 miles an hour for 3.5 hours, that code, the code that got me here. He said, we couldn't find one.
Oh.
I said, the computer has the bike, the motorcycle has a computer on it that remembers codes from the past.
Yeah.
Did you look in the computer's history? Yes, we did. And no code.
Oh
No
boy,
code.
do you have some angels?
Okay, do you have any goosebumps yet? Because
Yes.
this is what's going on now. Nothing of this world explains that. Nothing.
No, angels.
Nothing. It
Looking
had
out for you.
So I hit a deer. Going 70 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Well, incidentally, I had to get a new motorcycle when I hit the deer because it totaled the motorcycle. The
Yeah.
new motorcycle is the one that threw the code and the wheel bearings went up. But the previous motorcycle, I hit the deer at 70 miles an hour. I call a friend in Indiana, trying to get the whole country involved in this podcast now. So I called this friend in Indiana and he says, you hit a deer? I said, yeah. He says,
How are
at
you-
70?
How are you alive?
And he says, and lived? He said, yeah. And there's this pregnant pause. And he says, how many Gold Star families have you met with now? And at the time, it was a different number. I said about 450. He says, I guess you've got about 450 guardian angels, don't you? I said, yes, I do.
Yes.
Yes,
you
I do. And I have a handful more of those cute stories. But I want to end this because I know we're running way long. Hang in there, listeners. We'll be done in a minute.
We're almost done.
We're almost done. We're almost done. So here's my Civil War story. The Butlers immigrated from Ireland to the United States in 1832 to escape the Great Potato Famine that you might have heard about.
Yeah.
And the Butlers they ran a small boarding house to raise their family, and they had 3 kids, all born in New York City. And then they got older and they retired and they died. And the 3 kids decided that they were going to move west because now it's like 1850, 1855, something like that. 3 kids decide they're going to move west and they make it all the way to Illinois. And that's where they decided, all right, we're going to be farmers here in Illinois and we're going to make a big go of it. And this is just before the Civil War began. Right? So try to wrap your head around that mindset of, okay, there's no cars, there's no telephones, try to remember what society was like at the time.
Yeah.
And President Lincoln said, we're at war now, so I need Illinois to cough up some volunteers from the 92nd Illinois Infantry. And I probably misspeaking some of that, but it was the 92nd something. They call it the 92nd Illinois something. Anyway, the 92nd Illinois had 35 men in it, and they were given the task to guard the bridge. And I used to know the name of this, but it's where, let's see, you got Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee, and they all come together right there.
That like tri-state.
I used to know the name of that bridge. It's a really funky old Indian name, the name of that bridge. Anyway, David Butler he was the middle kid of the 3 kids. And he was in the 92nd Illinois Infantry. And he was part of the 35 men that were given the task to guard that bridge. Don't let any rebels cross. And then another name that I don't remember is the general that was running the rebel army that approached from the south with something like 40,000 men.
Oh my gosh.
Against 35. So a couple of shots were fired.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And then about half of the Yankees of the Illinois 92nd, they just ran into the woods because the remaining, I think there was about 10 of them or 11 of them. They threw down their weapons and threw up their arms. And it was about this time that the general, again, I don't remember his name. He was actually brought up on war crimes later. He said, no prisoners. So the 40,000 men opened fire and shot them all down.
Oh.
And then they marched across the bridge. So the rebel army got across that bridge. And a couple of days later, the Union big army comes along, and they have a doctor with them, and they're doing a mass grave, because that's what they did in the Civil War, is mass graves. Big hole, throwing all the bodies in it.
Everybody there.
They're putting the dirt on the bodies. When the Union's surgeon, that's what they were called. They weren't called doctors. They were surgeons.
Yeah.
Union surgeon says, hold on a second. There's still life in this one. And they actually grabbed him by the shoulders, and his feet were already buried. And they pulled him out of the dirt, and they put him on a wagon, and they sent the wagon to a hospital in Pennsylvania. So across Tennessee and West Virginia or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't spend enough time down there, so I don't know where all the state lines are. I could get pretty close because I've done a lot of traveling. I'm extraordinarily blessed that I've been able to do so much traveling as I have. So I know a lot of the state lines, but not all of them. Anyway, that was in April of 1863.
Okay.
The war ended in April 1865.
10
He's
years.
recuperating. And now listen, when the rebel army walked past, they didn't care at all. The idea was you got to reduce your enemy to that of a bug, right?
Yeah.
You got to come up with whatever names you can come up with. You got to do whatever you can to belittle that enemy so you don't feel bad about killing him.
Yeah.
So as they're marching past, they're swinging their muskets, and they're hitting the heads and the bodies of these dead 92nd Illinois infantry, right? And they're kicking them, and they're just abusing their dead bodies. So David, remember, this is a story about David.
Mm-hmm.
David was the one they pulled out of the ground and sent to Pennsylvania. And he gets to Pennsylvania, and half his teeth are missing. His nose is broken. It's way over on the side of his mouth. One leg is shorter than the other. And he's released from the hospital in June 1865. More than 2 years he's in the hospital recuperating.
Yeah.
And guess what he gets to do? Walk home from Pennsylvania to Illinois. So he walks home from Pennsylvania to Illinois, and he gets to the door. Now he's completely different than when he left. One leg shorter, the other's teeth are missing, nose is crooked, all this stuff. And he gets home to meet his two young boys, who are now 8 and 10 years old. They were infants when he left. And he meets his bride, who he loves very dearly, who immediately dies from pneumonia 2 weeks later.
Oh my gosh.
Now he's got these strange boys that don't really know who he is, and he's raising them by himself. And he's trying to run the farm, and he's got one leg shorter than the other. And you know he's got back problems.
Yeah.
You just know it. You just know it.
I would imagine.
Anyway, a year later, David Butler decides he's going to take it in a different direction. And he marries this woman who was made a widow in the Civil War. Her husband was actually killed. And they get married. And believe it or not, they pop out 3 more kids. And in 1892, David Butler finally passed away. So he fought a good fight, man.
Yeah, he lived a good.
He was in it. And this is a true story from the Civil War. It's very much a true story. Anyway, in 1892, the baby of the family, the new family, her name was Mabel. She was a girl. She was Mabel. She was 17 years old. And the mom said, well, I'm a widow twice. I've been twice widowed. I don't want to raise this girl anymore. So we're going to have an arranged marriage. So she's going to marry this farmer over here. And the farmer was 25 years old. And his name was George. George and Mabel get married, and they immediately leave Illinois and go to northern Iowa, where they are farmers, and they're doing their thing. They're doing their bit for God and country. They're working hard, and they're popping out kids. And I think Mabel had 7 children. And then, remember what year it was? This is 1892 when they got married.
Yeah.
7 kids later is World War I.
Yeah.
So that's how close all of this stuff comes together. And in 1919, Mabel died from the great flu epidemic that killed over 1 million people, which I think they called it the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
Which is weird
flu.
because it came from France. Try to remember, the French have always been there when they needed us.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
Anyway, Mabel died from the Spanish flu in 1919, but she had already given birth to 7 kids. George remarried a woman named Ruth, and their 3rd child was a boy that they named Emery. Emery grew up and married Gladys. Gladys and Emery had a boatload of kids too. And their third son was a boy named Keith. And Keith is my father.
Oh, I got goosebumps. That's so cool.
That story is in this book. This book is called Yours Very Sincerely and Respectfully. You heard me read the plaque earlier, and it's signed Yours Very Sincerely and Respectfully. That's where we got the name of the book. The book was written after I rode around the country and saw 64 Gold Star families. The sequel is still up here, but this is 64 families. I got a whole book. Look, there's words and everything. And I can prove that I wrote it because not only is my name on the cover, but if you look at the pictures, I'm in like almost all of them.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, this is so funny. I'm going to tell you this really quick. This is in Wyoming. Now that's it, right? That's the last of the states.
Yeah.
Our Wyoming story. I stopped in Wyoming and this lady found out what I was doing. She was working at the convenience store where I stopped to get gas. And I had to get a picture. I got a video of her up on the website too. Her name is Bobby Joe.
Okay.
Her two sisters, there's 3 girls in the family and that's it. Her 2 sisters are Betty Joe and Billy Joe. Why is this important?
Yes.
Because the TV show from the 60s was called Petticoat Junction.
Okay.
And there was a story of a single mom with 3 girls. And the 3 girls were Billy Joe, Betty Joe, and Bobby Joe. And it was a spin-off of Green Acres. It was very, very funny show.
Yeah.
Very funny. Anyway, her mother was a big fan of Petticoat Junction. So all 3 of the girls got named Billy Joe.
Oh my gosh.
That's a true story. So if you go to thegoldstarride.org, if you go to that website and you click on there's a pictures page, you can click on pictures, and there's one called vlog. If you click on the vlog tab, and then look through them, you'll see a video of her thanking the Gold Star Ride Foundation for the work that we do. And she actually opened up her wallet and paid for the gas for our motorcycle out of her pocket.
Oh, I love that.
At that gas station. So
that's so amazing.
I'm going to shut up now.
I've loved every second of this. This has been so awesome. I love stories. And again, the work that you do is so very important. So thank you so much for that. And thank you for your service. And
Thanks for being an American worth fighting for.
Yeah, absolutely. Listeners, I will put all of Token Squid, Anthony Price, Tony Price, the man of many names. I will put all of his information in the show notes because you have to connect with him. Please go listen to his podcast. Please donate to goldstarride.org. Honestly, this has been amazing. Go read his book, all the things, so that he can continue to do this work. Token Squid, thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it, and I enjoyed every single second of it. And again, listeners, if you got as much out of today, please share and go donate. And
you can do that.
You can still do that. Yeah. Even if you didn't, you can still do that. But if you made it this far, make sure that you go check him out. Thank you so much for listening today. Peace out, guys. Love your life. Bye.